Commander Jake Morrison walked across the metal bridge of the U.S. Liberty. His boots made soft sounds on the floor as he moved toward the large window that showed the stars outside. In the distance, a strange ship was getting closer. It looked nothing like the ships humans built. The ship was smooth and curved like a giant silver egg floating through space. 3 months ago, humanity had met aliens for the first time. The creatures called themselves Zephyrians. They were tall and thin with blue skin that seemed to glow softly. Their eyes were large and kind. When they first spoke to humans, they shared amazing things about the universe. They had been traveling between stars for hundreds of years while humans were still learning to make fire. Jake pressed a button on his uniform. "Ambassador Carter, please come to the bridge. Our visitors are almost here." Lisa Carter was the most important person on the ship when it came to talking with aliens. She had spent years learning about different cultures on Earth. Now she had to learn about beings from another world. She arrived on the bridge wearing her best blue uniform with shiny silver buttons. "How do they look, Commander?" Lisa asked as she stood next to Jake. "Nervous," Jake replied. "Their ship is moving slower than usual. Something is wrong." The communication system made a soft beeping sound. A voice from the communications room called out, "Commander, the Zephyrians want to talk right away. They say it's very important." Jake and Lisa walked quickly to the communications room. The walls were covered with screens and blinking lights. In the center of the room was a large screen that could show people from other ships. 2 young officers worked at control panels, pressing buttons and watching numbers change. "Put them through," Lisa said. The big screen flickered and then showed the inside of the alien ship. High Counselor Vix High appeared on the screen. He was the leader of the Zephyrians, who visited Earth ships. His blue skin looked darker than usual, and his large eyes seemed sad and tired. "Honored humans," Vix High said. His voice was musical and strange, but the computer changed his words into English. "We come to you because we need help. Something terrible is happening to our people." Lisa stepped closer to the screen. "What kind of help do you need, High Counselor?" Vex High's head drooped down. "Another species called the Krillians has started attacking our planets. They are destroying our cities and killing our people. We have tried talking to them, but they will not listen. They want to kill every Zephyrian in the galaxy." Jake felt his stomach tighten. War was something he understood. He had fought in battles around Mars when pirates tried to steal supplies from human colonies. But this sounded much worse. "How many ships do they have?" Jake asked. "More than 1,000. "Warships," Vex High replied. "Each ship is bigger and stronger than anything we have ever built. They have weapons that can break apart entire planets. They have been planning this attack for many years." Lisa looked shocked. 1,000 ships? How many ships do your people have?" "We have many ships, but they are built for exploring space and carrying people safely. We do not build weapons of war. Our people learned long ago that fighting only brings pain and death. We have lived in peace for over 800 years." Captain Ryan Brooks entered the communications room. He was a soldier who had fought in many battles. His face was hard and serious, with scars from old fights. He had heard Vex High talking and wanted to know more. "Why did you come to us?" Ryan asked. "Your technology is much better than ours. Your ships are faster, and your tools are more advanced. What can humans do that you cannot?" Vex High was quiet for a moment. "We do not know how to fight a war like this. The Krillians are not interested in peace or talking. They only want to destroy us completely. We hoped that humans might know how to negotiate with such beings. Your species is young, but you seem to understand conflict in ways that we do not." Dr. Helen Torres walked into the room. She was a scientist who studied different types of life. For the past 3 months, she had been learning everything she could about Sifurian culture. She knew things about them that other humans did not understand yet. "High Counselor," Helen said, "can you tell us more about the Krillians? What do they want from your people?" "They want our planets and our technology," Vexai answered. "But most of all, they seem to enjoy causing fear and pain. They have conquered many other species before us. Each time, they study their enemies for years before attacking. They learn how to cause the most damage and suffering possible." Admiral Patricia. Wells entered the room. She was the highest-ranking military officer on the ship. Her gray hair was pulled back tightly, and her uniform had many medals showing her years of service. She had come from Earth specifically to meet with the Zephyrians. "How long do you have before they reach your main planets?" Patricia asked. "Perhaps 3 months," Vexai said. "Maybe less. They are moving through our space very quickly. Every day we lose another colony. Millions of our people have already died." The room became very quiet. Everyone could see the pain in Vexai's large eyes. His people were facing complete destruction, and they had nowhere else to turn. "We know this is much to ask," Vexai continued. "We do not expect your soldiers to fight for us. We only hoped you might help us find a way to talk to the Krillians. Perhaps there is something we have not tried. Some way to make them understand that we mean no harm." Lisa looked around the room at the other humans. They all understood what was really happening. The Zephyrians were asking for help because they could not imagine the kind of violence needed to stop the Krillians. Their peaceful nature was both their greatest strength and their greatest weakness. "We will help you," Lisa said firmly. "But first, we need to understand exactly what we are dealing with. Can you send us all the information you have about the Krillian fleet?" "Of course," Vexai replied. "We will share everything. But please hurry. Every day means more of our people die." The screen went dark as the communication ended. The humans stood in silence for several moments, thinking about what they had just heard. Jake looked at Admiral Wells. "What do you think we can do against 1,000 warships?" Patricia's face was hard and determined. "We will find a way. The Zephyrians asked for help, and we do not abandon our friends." But even as she spoke, Patricia wondered how Earth's small fleet could possibly stand against an enemy that had conquered 17 different worlds. The Zephyrians had superior technology and centuries of experience in space. If they could not stop the Krillians, how could humanity hope to succeed? Outside the ship, the stars continued to shine peacefully, unaware that a war was coming that would change the galaxy forever. General Colin Parker stood in the war room aboard the UES Titan, the biggest ship in Earth's space navy. The room was filled with glowing screens, showing maps of distant star systems. Red dots marked where the Krillian fleet was moving, and blue dots showed Zephyrian colonies that were already destroyed or under attack. The information was worse than anyone had expected. Intelligence reports came in every hour from small spy drones that had sneaked close to enemy ships. Each report painted a darker picture of what humanity was facing. Dr. Sandra Evans walked to the front of the room. She was Earth's best expert on how alien minds work. For 2 weeks, she had been studying everything the Zephyrians had told them about the Krillians. Now she had to share what she learned with Earth's military leaders. "The Krillians are perfect hunters," Sandra told the room full of officers. "They have conquered 17 different alien species. Each time, they spend years studying their target. They learn exactly how that species thinks, how they fight, and what scares them most. Then they attack in the way that causes the most damage." Admiral Kevin Stone leaned forward in his chair. He was an old sailor who had commanded ships on Earth's oceans before moving to space. His weathered face showed concern as he listened to the report. "What makes them so dangerous?" Kevin asked. "They enjoy causing pain and fear," Sandra replied. Most species fight for territory or resources. The Krillians fight because they like to hurt others. They are not just conquerors. They are predators who hunt entire civilizations for sport. Commander Angela Foster pulled up new images on the main screen. The pictures showed Krillian warships moving through space in perfect formation. Each ship was enormous, covered in thick armor and bristling with weapons. These ships are built like flying fortresses, Angela explained to the group. They have heavy shields that can stop almost any attack. Their weapons can destroy cities from space. But look at how they move. The screen showed the enemy fleet advancing slowly and steadily through Zephyrian space. They were not hurrying. They were not trying to hide. They moved like they owned the galaxy, and nothing could stop them. Captain Brett Rogers had just arrived from Earth with the Third Fleet. He was a young officer who had studied military history at the Space Academy. As he watched the enemy's ships, he noticed something important. They are fighting like armies from old Earth, Brett said. They line up their ships and attack directly. They expect their enemies to do the same thing. It is like they have never faced an enemy who fights differently. The Zephyrians had given Earth complete information about their own ships and weapons. Chief Engineer Diana Wood had been studying this data for days. What she found amazed her and also worried her. The Zephyrian technology is incredible, Diana told the War Council. Their ships can travel faster than anything we have. Their shields are nearly unbreakable. Their weapons are powerful enough to crack open planets. Then why can't they stop? The Krillians? Asked Colonel Peter Hayes. He was a soldier who specialized in fighting against stronger enemies. Diana brought up technical drawings of Zephyrian weapons on the screen. Look at these settings. Every weapon system has built-in safety controls. They cannot fire on populated areas. They cannot cause unnecessary damage. The Zephyrians built their tools for defense and exploration, not for total war. The Krillians have no such limits, Peter observed. Their weapons are designed to kill as many people as possible and destroy everything in their path. Lieutenant Sarah Murphy was the youngest officer in the room, but she had been studying intelligence reports more carefully than anyone else. She raised her hand to speak. There is something important that everyone needs to understand, Sarah said. The Krillians have been studying the Zephyrians for years. They know everything about Zephyrian psychology, technology, and tactics. But they know nothing about humans. The room became quiet as everyone thought about what this meant. We have been in space for less than 100 years, Sarah continued. The Krillians have never seen our ships or our weapons. They have never fought against human tactics. To them, we do not exist as a threat. Admiral Patricia Wells stood up. She had been listening to all the reports and thinking about Earth's actions. The numbers were terrible. Earth's entire space navy had fewer than 200 ships. The enemy had more than 1,000 ships, each one bigger and more powerful than anything humans had built. But Patricia had fought in many battles during her long career. She had learned that numbers and technology were not always the most important things in war. The Zephyrians asked us to help them negotiate, Patricia said to the room. But you cannot negotiate from a position of weakness. The Krillians will only listen to strength. We need to show them that attacking peaceful species comes with a cost. Captain Jake Morrison spoke up from his seat near the back. Admiral, how can we fight 1,000 enemy ships with only 200 of our own? Even if we had better tactics, we are outnumbered 5-1. We are not going to fight them the way they expect, Patricia replied. The Krillians have conquered 17 species, but all of those species fought like the Zephyrians. They lined up their fleets and tried to win through direct combat. That is not how humans fight. Dr. Helen Torres, who had been quiet during most of the meeting, finally spoke. I have been studying human military history as well as alien cultures. There is something the Krillians do not understand about our species. We evolved differently than most intelligent life forms. What do you mean? Asked General Parker. Most species that develop space travel come from peaceful worlds, Helen explained. They learn to cooperate and work together. They build technology for exploration and science. But humans are different. We come from a world where everything tried to kill us. We have been at war with our environment, with other species, and with each other for millions of years. She walked to the display, showing human ships next to Krillian vessels. The human ships looked smaller and weaker, but Helen pointed out details that others had missed. Look at how our ships are built, she said. Every human vessel is designed to operate in dangerous conditions. Our crews are trained to survive in space without life support. Our weapons are built to work even when the ship is badly damaged. We do not build our tools for comfort or safety. We build them for survival. Colonel Marcus Davis had been studying the intelligence reports about Krillian supply lines and bases. He stood up with a grim smile on his face. I think I understand what the Admiral is planning, Marcus said. The Krillians expect us to defend Zephyrian worlds. They expect fleet battles and territory exchanges. They are prepared for that kind of war. Exactly, Patricia nodded. But we are not going to give them the war they expect. We are going to give them a war they have never seen before. The room was filled with excited voices as officers began to understand the strategy. Earth would not try to match the Krillian fleet in direct combat. Instead, they would use every advantage that came from being human. Admiral Wells looked around the room at her officers. These were people who had grown up fighting for survival in the harsh environment of space. They had battled pirates in the asteroid belt, survived equipment failures on distant worlds, and learned to think quickly when everything went wrong. The Krillians think they know everything about warfare, Patricia said. They are about to learn that humans have been perfecting the art of war since before we could walk upright. We may not have the biggest ships or the best technology, but we have something they have never encountered. What is that? Asked Captain Rogers. Patricia smiled coldly, desperation combined with experience. The Zephyrians asked for help, and we are going to help them. But we are going to do it our way. Outside the ship, space looked peaceful and empty. But in the war room of the UES Titan, humanity was planning something that would change the galaxy forever. The Krillians had conquered 17 civilizations, but they had never faced a species that turned survival into an art form. The war was about to begin, and neither side knew what the other was truly capable of doing. Admiral Patricia Wells stood in the command center of the UES Titan, looking at the quantum communication link that connected her ship to Earth. On the screen, President Catherine Miller and the United Earth Defense Council waited for her report. The faces looking back at her were serious and worried. They all knew that the next few minutes would decide if humanity would go to war in space for the first time. Members of the Council, Patricia began, we have completed our analysis of the Krillian threat. The enemy has over 1,000 warships, advancing toward Zephyrian core worlds. Each ship is larger and more heavily armed than anything in our fleet. By normal military thinking, this should be an impossible fight. President Miller leaned forward. But you have a plan, Admiral? Yes, Madam President. The Krillians expect conventional space warfare. They expect us to line up our fleets and fight ship to ship until one side is destroyed. That is how they have conquered 17 other species. We are going to give them something completely different. Patricia activated a star map that showed the positions of both human and Krillian forces. The enemy thinks they are fighting the Zephyrians with some human help. They do not realize they are about to face humanity at war. On another ship, Captain Jake Morrison received his orders through secure communication. His job was to take 50 Earth ships and fly directly toward the Krillian main fleet. The enemy would see them coming and prepare for a normal space battle. The Krillians would think this was how Earth planned to fight, but Jake's ships were not the real attack. They were bait. Their job was to make the enemy look in the wrong direction while the real plan happened somewhere else. "Are you sure about this, Admiral?" Jake asked through the communication link. "My ships will be badly outnumbered. Many of my people will not survive." "I know what I am asking of you, Captain," Patricia replied. "But if this works, you will save both human and Zephyrian lives. The enemy must believe that your ships are our main force." Commander Ryan Brooks prepared his own task force of Earth's fastest ships. These vessels were not built for direct combat. They were scouts and light cruisers designed for speed and stealth. Ryan's job was completely different from Jake's mission. While the Krillians were busy fighting Jake's ships, Ryan would take his fleet around the enemy completely. Using navigation data provided by the Zephyrians, his ships would travel to the Krillian home worlds and attack the enemy where they felt safest. This goes against every rule of civilized warfare, said Captain Lisa Carter, who had been transferred to Ryan's fleet. "We are planning to attack civilian targets while their military is away fighting." The Krillians gave up the right to civilized treatment when they started exterminating entire species, Ryan replied. "Besides, we are not attacking civilians. We are attacking the infrastructure that supports their war machine." Colonel Marcus Davis supervised the loading of humanity's most unusual weapons onto the attack ships. These were not traditional military weapons. They were tools that humans had developed for mining asteroids, building space stations, and reshaping planets for colonization. The gravity bombs could destabilize a planet's core by creating artificial gravitational fields. Nanite swarms were designed to eat through metal and multiply rapidly, originally used for breaking down old spacecraft for recycling. Computer viruses had been created to manage complex systems, but could also destroy any electronic network they entered. "Are you certain these will work against alien technology?" asked Dr. Helen Torres as she helped modify the weapons for use against Krillian systems. "The Zephyrians have been analyzing Krillian computer systems for us," Marcus replied. "Their technology is advanced, but follows logical principles. Our viruses should spread through their networks like wildfire." Captain Angela Foster led the stealth divisions, ships equipped with experimental cloaking devices that bent light around them. Her vessels could become nearly invisible to most sensors. Angela's job was to sneak behind enemy lines and plant humanity's surprises throughout the Krillian supply chain. "Remember," Angela told her crews, "we are not trying to win battles. We are trying to make it impossible for the enemy to continue fighting. Cut their supply lines, destroy their fuel depots, and make them afraid to leave their home systems." The Krillian Supreme Commander Thecalon received reports about the approaching human fleet from his flagship. The reports made him laugh. Less than 200 primitive ships were coming to challenge the might of his empire. He had conquered entire star systems with fewer resources. "Deploy the 5th and 7th battle groups," Thecalon ordered his subordinates. "These humans want to die with their alien friends. We will grant their wish quickly." But while Thecalon was making his plans, Lieutenant Colonel Brett Rogers and his Marines were already inside captured Krillian supply ships. The humans had taken these vessels without firing a single shot. The Krillians had never developed security measures against beings who could survive in the vacuum of space. Human Marines could operate in zero gravity for hours using only basic life support gear. They could cut through ship hulls with portable tools and fight effectively, even when their ships were damaged or destroyed. The Krillians had never faced an enemy like this. "The supply depot is secured," Brett reported to Admiral Wells. "We have control of their main fuel station in this sector. When their ships try to refuel, they will get a very unpleasant surprise. The battle began exactly as the Krillians expected. Captain Jake Morrison's ships appeared at the edge of Zephyrian space and began moving toward the enemy fleet in traditional battle formation. The Krillian commanders saw what they thought was a typical inferior force, making a desperate last stand. "These humans fight like all the others," Supreme Commander Thecalon said to his officers. "They line up their ships and hope that courage will overcome superior firepower. This will be over quickly." But while the main Krillian fleet was focused on Jake's ships, strange things began happening throughout their empire. Fuel depots exploded without warning. Computer systems crashed and infected other networks with destructive programs. Entire supply convoys disappeared without sending distress signals. Commander Ryan Brooks and his fast attack fleet had reached the Krillian home systems. They moved like ghosts through space, striking at industrial targets and military installations. The gravity bombs they planted would not detonate for hours, giving the human ships time to escape before the destruction began. Mining platform 7 is destroyed, reported one of Ryan's ship captains. Their shipyard construction facility is offline. The nanites have begun consuming their orbital defense platforms. On the main battlefield, Jake Morrison watched as overwhelming Krillian forces moved toward his ships. His crews were ready to fight and die if necessary, but they all knew their real job was to keep the enemy busy while the real attack happened. Elsewhere, all ships begin evasive maneuvers, Jake ordered. Make them work for every victory. We need to buy time for the other operations to succeed. The space battle that followed was fierce but brief. Jake's ships fought bravely, but they were outgunned and outnumbered. One by one, Earth vessels were destroyed by superior Krillian firepower. But each ship that died took time and resources from the enemy. Then the gravity bonds exploded in the Krillian home system. 3 major shipyards collapsed into themselves, taking thousands of enemy vessels with them. Industrial complexes that had taken decades to build were destroyed in moments. Supreme Commander Thecalon received the emergency reports with growing alarm. His home worlds were under attack by an enemy he could not see or track. Critical infrastructure was being systematically destroyed by weapons he did not understand. "How many human ships are in our home systems?" Thecalon demanded. "We do not." "No, Supreme Commander," his intelligence officer replied. "Our sensors cannot detect them. They strike without warning and disappear before we can respond." For the first time in his long military career, Thecalon felt something he had never experienced before: fear. The humans were not fighting like any enemy he had ever faced. They ignored every rule of civilized warfare and struck at targets no honorable species would attack. "Recall all fleets to defend our core worlds," Thecalon ordered. "We must stop this madness before they destroy everything we have built." But it was already too late. Humanity had brought the full force of a species that had learned to survive by any means necessary. The Krillians were about to discover that there were worse things than defeat in battle. They were about to learn what happened when they threatened. A species that viewed survival as the only rule that mattered. The war lasted exactly 18 days. Supreme Commander Thecalon stood in what remained of his command center, watching reports flood in from across the Krillian Empire. Everything his people had built over centuries was falling apart. His mighty fleet, which had conquered 17 different species, was scattered and broken. Admiral Patricia Wells received the surrender message while standing on the bridge of the UES Titan. Around her ship floated the wreckage of what had once been the most feared military force in the galaxy. Broken Krillian vessels drifted through space like dead metal fish. Supreme Commander Thecalon requests permission to come aboard and discuss terms, the communications officer reported. "Grant permission," Patricia replied. "But he comes alone and unarmed." An hour later, Thecalon stood before Patricia in the ship's main conference room. The Krillian leader was tall and covered in dark scales. His eyes were red and angry, but there was also something else in them that Patricia recognized: fear. "What kind of beings are you?" Thecalon asked through his translator device. "You fight without honor. You attack targets that should be protected. You ignore every rule that civilized species follow in war." Captain Jake Morrison sat at the conference table. Half of his crew had died in the battle that served as a distraction for the real attack. His uniform showed burn marks from when his ship had been hit by enemy fire. "We are the beings you chose to threaten," Jake answered simply. "You started a war against peaceful people. You wanted to kill entire civilizations. What did you expect to happen?" Thecalon's scales changed color, showing his confusion. "We expected you to fight like others have fought. We expected fleet battles and territorial exchanges. We expected to win through superior force. You expected to fight the Zephyrians," Patricia said. "But when you threatened them, you made them our friends. And we protect our friends." Dr. Sandra Evans sat nearby, taking notes on everything Thecalon said and did. She was studying his reactions to better understand how Krillian minds worked. What she saw surprised her. "You genuinely do not understand what you did wrong," Sandra observed. "To you, conquest and extermination were just normal activities. You never considered that other species might fight back differently." The Zephyrian High Counselor Vexhai arrived to witness the surrender ceremony. His people were safe now, but they had been forever changed by what they witnessed. The gentle aliens had asked humanity for help with negotiation. Instead, they had watched humans wage total war. "We asked you to help us talk to them," Vexhai said quietly to Admiral Wells. "We never imagined you would destroy their entire empire." "Talking only works when both sides want peace," Patricia replied. "The Krillians were not interested in peace. They were interested in killing your people, so we eliminated the threat." Colonel Marcus Davis entered the conference room with a detailed report about the cleanup operations. Human forces were working throughout the former Krillian territory, dismantling military installations and freeing enslaved populations. 17 different species have been liberated from Krillian control, Marcus reported. Most of their worlds are asking to join a mutual defense agreement with Earth. They want protection against future threats. Commander Ryan Brooks arrived with representatives from the liberated worlds. These were beings who had lived under Krillian rule for decades or even centuries. Some looked like giant insects, others resembled walking trees, and a few were made of living crystal. All of them wanted to thank humanity for their freedom. "Our people have not known freedom for 80 years, said one alien, whose translator made his voice sound like singing. "We offer our loyalty to Earth and our eternal gratitude to humanity." "We do not want your loyalty," Patricia told the gathering of alien representatives. "We want your independence. Help each other stay free, and help us make sure nothing like the Krillian Empire ever rises again." Dr. Helen Torres established the Interspecies Defense Institute in the weeks following the war. Her job was to teach the galaxy's peaceful species how to protect themselves, using human military knowledge adapted to their own abilities and moral beliefs. "We cannot make you into warriors like humans," Helen explained to her first class of alien students. "But we can teach you to recognize threats and respond before they become overwhelming." The Zephyrians learned to build weapons that could disable enemy ships without killing crews. The crystal beings developed communication networks that could coordinate defenses across multiple star systems. Each species found ways to protect themselves that matched their own nature. Ambassador Lisa Carter worked on establishing the new galactic government. The old system where strong species could dominate weak ones was gone forever. In its place came a confederation where all species had equal voices and mutual protection agreements. The galaxy needs rules, Lisa explained to the assembled alien. Leaders. But these rules must protect the weak, not enable the strong to prey on them. Supreme Commander Vecalon and his surviving officers were not executed or imprisoned. Instead, they were sent to rehabilitation centers, where they would learn to live without violence. It was a strange concept for beings who had spent there. Entire lives as predators. Why do you not kill us? Vecalon asked Admiral Wells during one of their final meetings. We would have killed you and all your friends. Why do you show mercy to enemies? Because someone has to be better, Patricia replied. If we became like you, then we would just be the new Krillians. The galaxy needs protectors, not more conquerors. 6 months after the war ended, Admiral Wells stood once again on the bridge of a human ship. But now it was not just humans serving. Aboard Earth vessels, Zephyrian scientists worked alongside human engineers. Alien security officers learned human tactics while teaching their own defensive techniques. High Counselor Bexhai visited the ship to ask the question that had troubled his people since the war's end. Why did you help us? Your species gained nothing from saving ours. You risked everything for people you had just met. We do not understand such behavior. Admiral Wells looked out at the peaceful space lanes where ships from dozens of different species now traveled safely together. Merchant vessels carried goods between worlds that had never traded before. Science ships explored regions that had been too dangerous under Krillian rule. You asked for help, Patricia said. That is what decent people do when others ask for help. We help. But you did more than help, Vexhai observed. You brought the full force of your entire species to our aid. You were willing to fight and die for people you barely knew. Patricia smiled as she watched a group of young aliens learning human martial arts from marine instructors. The Zephyrians taught us something important when they came to us for help. They showed us that some things are worth fighting for, even when the odds seem impossible. What things? Vexhai asked. The right of peaceful people to live without fear, Patricia replied. The idea that civilizations should be built on cooperation, not conquest. The belief that when someone asks for help, you give them everything. You have. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson during those 18 days of war. When threatened civilizations called upon humanity for aid, they received not just assistance, but the complete commitment of a species that had spent millions of years learning how to survive against impossible odds. The Zephyrians had asked for help with negotiation, never imagining that humans would interpret help as the total destruction of any threat to innocent life. But in the end, they discovered that their faith in humanity had been justified. The stars that had once been terrorized by Krillian raiders now shone down on a galaxy where peaceful species could grow and flourish under the protection of beings who understood that some things were worth any sacrifice. Humanity had shown the galaxy what happened when you threatened their friends. The lesson would not be forgotten for a very long time.